Arriving here now, maybe letting the eyes rest gently closed if that is available to you. Arriving within the body, arriving within the breath, arriving within this space. Arriving within present, and arriving within connection with this beautiful earth. And as we arrive here together, inviting the sound of the singing bowl to welcome and open this space. Fluttering the eyes open if they're not open already. And welcome, 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 welcome. I am Pei-Ling Lee, and it is my honor to join you in this beautiful space of spiraling within, where we spiral within this present moment together. And I'm so overjoyed to be joined with my beautiful friend and our guest today. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Marina, or Marina, depends how you'd like to say it. So I did not prepare because my goal today was to just allow whatever flows through to come. So I'm actually kind of throwing away some of the typical ways I would introduce myself. I'm arriving here. I'm surrounded by some of my sacred objects. I have my singing bowl that I use in prayer and meditation. I have some sage. I have my obsidian pyramid.
I love that.
This has been such a grounding presence for me since I was I think I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And I have my little kuripe. It's a applicator for hape, which is a medicinal tobacco product.
Oh, cool.
That's used for meditation. I'm coming to you from Sunnyvale, California, which is not too far from where I was born. I grew up in Redwood City, which is in Ohlone territory. And I'm coming to you today. I'm in a place of transformation in my life. I've recently stepped into excuse me. I've recently stepped into a new phase, a new era. And, these cycles happen every few years. One of them really began at the beginning of the pandemic. Coincidentally, it actually kind of started a little bit before that. And This new one started about 2 months ago, when I had mentioned this to you before, when I became pregnant and decided, to experience everything that was, and to choose not to move forward with it at this time. So that experience really opened a doorway for me into experiencing what creation can mean in whole new ways. And this is really fundamental to my spiritual practice, to my daily life, is this experience as a woman and as a creator in devotion to our planet and to all of creation and all of life. So I suppose I would say some of the ways I define myself. I'm an artist. I love to paint. I love to make music. I love to dance and flow. And my yoga practice is very much a dance and an expression. Even in meditation, I am very often in this space of I feel like I'm receiving from the world and giving back these moment-to-moment creations. And so I do creative work for my day job. I'm a video editor, and I am now in the transition to move towards creating my brand as a full-time living, I suppose. Yeah. So I also teach yoga and conscious dance, and I am DJing and holding space for primarily people who identify as women, but people of all genders. I have always, since I was very young, very, very young, been grateful to have this experience of really like having my womanhood and my femininity honored. And I was able to grow up in a space where I was gifted these little ways to really like step into my femininity as I grew up. And I got to experience being around women of different generations and seeing them in their power, really in their power, and inviting me to do the same. So now that I'm stepping into this new era of my womanhood, of moving towards becoming a mother in the next few years and starting a family, and also just birthing all of these new creations in my life right now, I'm really feeling the support of generations of women before and after holding me. So that's sort of how I would introduce the work that I do.
Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. And really, it's like with the invitation to introduce ourselves, like I love that you're just letting it flow. I think that's a beautiful intention. I think that's exactly, at least that is the intention of this space, is that we show up empty and then we just let what is true flow through us. And like you showing up empty and just listening to what was coming through was just so beautiful to witness and experience. And all the synchronicities too. Like you showed us your black obsidian pyramid. I have this selenite wand that I placed on my laptop, and this is the first time I'm doing this. Like I haven't done that ever before. And there's an alignment that, just like you said before we clicked record, you could feel my presence coming through in song before we started. We were definitely attuning, and I have my singing bowl here, and I saged just before as well. And so even in that, it's like, even in those sacred objects that we connect with, that reflects who we are as well in ways. And yeah, I'd love to, the 2-month shift. So you said that there was one phase just kind of coinciding with the pandemic. what is this shift of transformation in the past couple months? Because as we've connected, and chatted before, your pregnancy was in 2021, right? And so that was, or was it 2020?
22.
Oh,
well, yeah, I actually didn't mention it happened twice.
Oh.
Which is a whole thing. That's a whole journey we could talk about. And both times it really impacted me. And I hesitate to mention that it happened twice because I still hold some shame. I haven't released all of the shame that, like, there was a big part of me that was like, it's okay to do this once, but you're freaking stupid if you let this happen twice. And this, yeah.
Yeah, just the...
And the second time was so challenging for me because like I mentioned, I feel I am so close to motherhood. I'm so close to being ready. And it was sort of a moment where I was like, well, is this a moment of surrender? Do I just allow this to happen and step into that phase? And then I realized that I don't have to. And there's many, many, many beautiful gifts in this time before choosing motherhood. And I would say that that's one of the most defining things about this time for me now, is that I now have this vision. I know that it's coming for me. I know now that I'm preparing, and I feel time has never been something that made a lot of sense to me. And with the lockdown and that previous era was so much about just time becoming expansive and no longer having any anxiety around accomplishment within a certain amount of time. And now it's almost like the flip side of that coin, where I feel like I'm working with time. Like, time is now my partner here, where most of my life I resented time and I really struggled with time and getting things done in an amount of time, creating that structure and that kind of accountability for myself. Now I feel like, you know what? I have this time and it's precious, and I want to use every moment as well as I can, because I know that this phase has an end, and I feel like it's actually creating that structure for me. Almost like, in a way, you could say that masculine force, like that structure that allows for creativity to flow within it.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel I'm in a phase of preparation, and with all of my creations right now, it has this sense of a new sense of importance, not because, I'm so great, I'm gonna do all of these things before I settle down and have a kid. It's not like that. It's more like I'm choosing carefully to tend this garden before we move into the next phase, and it feels very precious.
Oh, yeah. So much richness in all that you've shared, and I'm so grateful for you sharing these aspects of your experience with us to be with you in as well. Like, when you surfaced and voiced and included shame into the conversation, I just felt exactly what you had said moments before, of the lineage, past, present, future, of all of the women holding you and holding us in this space. And it's just, we're so supported, just like that vision of the masculine container allowing for the flow within. It's like, there is so much support holding us up, and even witnessing and supporting us as those, like, those echoes of shame and those energies and frequencies, they're not personal to us. They've been collective and they've been, you know, generational. And so getting to just let them come to the surface and meeting ourselves in love while experiencing those, it's like that is profound and that radiates across time space. And I love also what you said about working with time, because that's what I've also kind of been experiencing, that shift recently as well, of seeing time as really this divine partner that I get to co-create with rather than wrestle against.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, like, what you said about carrying so much that isn't ours. Like, what, I mean, so I'll talk about the first pregnancy. That was, both times it was with my very beloved partner, who the first time we got pregnant, like, we realized, we had known pretty much almost immediately after meeting each other that we are together for life, and we're going to build a family together, and we're going to hold each other through everything. So that was never really in question. But with the first pregnancy, like, it just put everything under a lens where we looked at it and we saw that we really do have this divine partnership, and we really do want this. We really do want to create life together. And I've wanted to be a mother since I was a child. Like, I'm an only child, and that was one of the things that I really dreamed of, was to have children. And in all of my previous relationships, I knew that, but it was almost like upon meeting him that it just became this new reality, because it's suddenly here I have in the flesh the partner that I would trust. If I were to die, I would absolutely trust him to raise my child, you know? And anyway, the whole thing with the first pregnancy was that I really realized, wow, I'm so disconnected from this experience. Like, our upbringing, our society, like, has not taught me how to feel this moment and how to be present for this moment. And as soon as I found out, it was a lot of fear, and it was a lot of, it was shame, which does not come to me from my parents and from my community. It comes to me from so much more, from the news, from, like, I was experiencing, like, oh, like, this is now just a politicized thing. It's not something in its full glory of being able to literally create life. So I knew pretty much immediately that I wasn't going to move forward with it, but I had about a week in between. So I made it my intention to just fully experience, what does it mean to be pregnant? And I will just say, like, I know that 1 week of pregnancy does not compare at all to carrying for the full 9 months, and the waves and the challenges that come with that. I did not face all of them. I didn't face many of them, but I did get to experience, after a few days of sitting with it and really trying to connect. Like, it started out, I literally couldn't feel any change in my body. And I was like, this is so weird. Like, why can't I? So it became this thing. I was fortunate not to be working at the time. It was like very early lockdown. So I pretty much sat in meditation for a full week, and some movement, doing some qigong. Yeah. But after a few days, I could feel it, and I felt how my womb was this portal to creation itself. And in the deepest states of meditation, like, I mean, it was just profound. I've never ever experienced meditation that was like that. It's like the bliss that they tell you can attain.
Yeah.
You know, after years and years of practice, I experienced. And
in that deepest state of meditation, during that time of you being pregnant and connecting with your womb space as this creation portal, were there, in your meditation, do you experience visions, or like what's the sensational experience? Is it like a knowing, or is it very embodied?
I don't have much in the way of vision. It's more embodied. Yeah. It's sort of a deeper knowing, like I would say it's like my thoughts move down into my heart and into my gut and become sort of a pulsation. At the time I was experiencing a lot of heart opening. So I literally felt like a puffy space moving out from my heart. And I literally felt like I was peeling off like the outside edge of a shell, and then I would find more inside. And then I would peel it off again, and then I would find more. And it was almost like, not quite an ache, but it was like this, like something wanting to burst out that was trapped. And so that was actually, like, when I look back, that time, not just during that week, but that whole time, that is sort of where the name for my brand was born, this Unbound Heart Space, because I realized that I had so much around my heart, holding it in. And when you asked earlier of like what's defining about this new era, I think both times I really noticed a shift into a new era. It was because I was shedding these patterns that I thought my whole life I was banging my head against the wall, like, why can't I let go of this? Like, seeing these thoughts in my head bothering me, and then suddenly some of those patterns just fall away and are no longer relevant. And I think both times, especially the first time, it was because it just put everything in perspective. It's like, at the same time, being connected to so much that's so much bigger than ourselves, and really honing in close and realizing like nothing matters more than my family, than me, my partner, and our future, whoever comes in to this space, you know. And for much of my life, I really struggled with spreading myself between so many different people, so many different commitments, so many different ideas. And a lot of that, what was difficult about that, I'm gonna just pause. Do you hear the shower in the background?
Yeah. That's okay. The shower sounds get to be part of the orchestra of this moment.
Okay. Darn it.
If you feel called to make any shifts, feel free.
I don't really have anywhere else to go. Arg. Well, anyway, where was I?
Different influences. You were talking about like,
yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of that being pulled in different directions was not really about like time and wanting to be able to manage all of these different things. It was really because it was really taxing, because it felt like I was becoming like a different person in all of these different parts of myself would come to the forefront. When I was interacting with this person, I would like rise to meet their energy, and I would suddenly be like this person. And then like at the time I was going, I'm thinking about my college days now, where I tried so many times to shift environments to find that peace. And I realized it was really stressful to go. I went to school on the East Coast, and I would adapt and feel like, oh, this is who I am. And then I would come home And then I would be like, oh my God, no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And then I would travel and meet people and be like, oh, finally, this is who I am. And I'm also someone with like many, many different identities that none of them can really, I never fully like fit into any one community fully. Because I'm Jewish, I'm half Puerto Rican, I'm also white. I grew up in America with an immigrant mother. So I never fully felt in any of these spaces like I had, I would always look at people with communities where they could just dissolve into it and like just whatever, like be part of it. And I didn't feel that for so long, and I really, really wanted it. But it came to me once I was able to shed that part of me that's always looking for that outside of myself. So that was sort of the defining feature, I suppose, of the previous era of my life. And now, like, once again, it's put everything under a lens where it's like, you know what? Like, I have this guide in my heart that tells me what's important and what matters. And I will absolutely hear you and hold space for you and move through the world and encounter people who aren't on the same wavelength as me. And I will be compassionate. And I will be kind, but I'm not going to change myself. And I'm not going to pretend to care about things that I don't care about. And I think in the past I was really trying to do that, but it was coming out in a sort of like brutal way of like saying no to things, you know, of like, this is not me, this is not me. And I'm so grateful finally to be in a place where this isn't dominating my experience.
Yeah, wow, that what you shared about especially the college days and the kind of like, yeah, just changing yourself to match the external energy or the person that you're encountering, their energy. Like, I can just so relate to that. And even what you just shared about being quite firm with the no of that's not me. Like, I'm reflecting, high school Pei-Ling is coming up, and in high school I had very strong no's. I was like, I don't I don't drink, I don't get why people drink, I am not interested in this. I had very firm lines. Like, I drew this box and I was like, this is who I am. I get straight A's, I don't drink, I love clothing and like whatever my definitions were. And then when I went to college, I was like, oh, what might it be like to expand and explore beyond that box? Like, what happens if I do drink half a glass of wine? And, you know, then I discover, hey, look, this actually isn't something that I want, but at least I tried it. And so it's funny because in many ways, like, those things that I was saying no to, I still don't resonate with, but it's not like you're describing. It's not a no from fear, and it's not a no that's like pushing away. Whereas I think before there was a bit of a resistance energy, like a fighting or a closeness. Whereas now it's like, I'm open to encountering, but I, like you, I'm not going to sacrifice myself. I'm not going to compromise my integrity of what I know to be true and aligned for me in order to be agreeable, in order to receive some type of approval or belonging, because the truth is my belonging is within. Like, that's that profound shift that you're describing from like external to internal and trusting that inner guide. It's like our belonging is, we always belong because we're always, or at least me, it's like my belonging comes from my remembrance and connection to all of it, all that is. Like, even if I encounter you and we may not be in the same wavelength, I remember that on the essence level that we are connecting heart to heart.
Yes. And like so much of that, it's just keeps bringing me back to kind of this experience of womanhood for me and for so many, where we do have this pattern of needing to please and needing to not be too much, and it's not still not safe. It's still today not safe for women to be in their full selves moving through the world. And this applies to people of all genders, but in my experience as a woman, that's what I can speak to. And it is truly not safe still for us to be big and loud, and maybe it's quiet, maybe it's soft, but we still have these inputs from the world around us that tear us down for being authentic and being true. And the most protected childhood will not save any young girl from that. And it reminded me, like, actually one of the things that was so special and so profound of being able to grow up in my community. I had this very special summer camp that I used to go to for 3 weeks every summer. I think I told you about it. And it was sort of, I always explain it to people that it was like the hippie Jews of Northern California. And that was kind of the first place that I was taught of, like, what does it mean to be a woman? And, you know, like Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou was like the guiding message. And we got to experience, it was up near Yosemite, and we got to experience like skinny dipping in the river and like lying against rocks and singing and dancing. And I said that I didn't experience that community that smothers you with love, but I did. Like, that was the space where I did get that. And that was the space where I experienced, where I opened up to spirituality and what it meant to dissolve into the one. And that was through music, and that was through being in the presence of these trees and honoring the land and our history, and just holding each other in this space of like just earth. And that medicine is available to us always. So that is something that's been really profound as I come back to it's so funny, like, I rejected so much of what was offered to me growing up. Like, my dad was actually a meditation teacher for 20 years, and he taught me meditation as a very young child. Like, we would go on these hikes and meditate together. And then, of course, I like grew up and like rejected it. And he also has a very profound relationship to God or to a creator, that he always tried to make it clear to me that God is not this like father or like a male figure up in the sky who determines right and wrong for us. So I was fortunate to be given the message fairly young that no, God is really for us. And I really, really feel this in my bones. Like, it's all of life in one. It's the shared consciousness. It's the rocks. It's the bees. It's the sky. It's the sea. It's the trees. It's every person you encounter, whether they're, no matter how far from any kind of conscious living they are, like, we're all part of it. And the greatest thing we can work for is peace. So I think I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but...
Oh, but you touched on so many things, and the alignment of the timing of our conversation as well. I just came back from a weekend at Esalen. Have you heard of Esalen? Yeah, so it was my mom and I went, and Esalen is this gorgeous retreat center institute along the Big Sur coastline of California. And it's just, there are these gorgeous hot springs that overlook the Pacific Ocean. And yeah, even that, like, as you were talking about your experience in that summer camp of skinny dipping and just being freely expressed, like, that's what I got to gift myself the permission to do. And it really is, it's a choice to show up fully. It's a choice to show up fully, and it's a choice to let all of those potential voices within the self of too much or not enough, like this fear of being too much, talking too much, shining too bright, or that I'll be judged as not good enough and then rejected. It's like, in a space like that, all of those, there's spaciousness to just be the self, even if those voices come up. And it's interesting because it's like, I think the aspect of nudity really does, it kind of brings us to the forefront. It surfaces any of those things around shame. And I've been to a Korean spa a couple times, and so that's like it's separated by gender, but it's all nude. But this was my first time just kind of like out in the daylight, out in the sun, in the water, just enjoying being completely bare, like not just physically, but bare in terms of just like open heart. And and the beautiful inspiration of getting to be in a space like that is to see everyone is just there showing up in that shared space of fully letting themselves be exactly as they are, like no matter what shape or size or color or this, or no matter even how, just all of the aspects of being the beautiful divine human that we each are, and just enjoying and receiving in that space of communion with the land, with the ancestors of the land, with the sky, with the ocean. And one of the things I got to experience was this beautiful herbal bathing ritual, where it was facilitated by this woman who I don't know her exact title, but she works with herbs and she's trained as a birth doula as well. But it was a communal bathing ritual where each of us one by one kind of descended these steps, and we were saged and, cleansed and cleared. And then we got to enter into the bath that was full of beautiful lotus plants freshly picked from the garden and then sprinkled with all these gorgeous blossomed flowers, and just bathing. Just, it was a magical experience being in this gorgeous hot spring with just red and orange and yellow and purple flowers all over. And then she invited us to adorn ourselves with the petals, which that's never even crossed my mind to do before. And taking the petals and like putting it upon our third eye, or just really decorating ourselves with the flowers. And it was just this beautiful space. But that moment of descending the stairs and standing naked, receiving this kind of saging and cleansing in a space of community, me a couple years ago could not even imagine that I would be doing that, because of those layers, like you were describing, of those layers around the heart. It's like those layers of guarding that over the past couple years I've chosen to shed. And I'm just so celebrating of life and myself that I'm at a point in my evolution where I get to choose to do that and truly just delight and enjoy the experience. And that's it. There is something about that. It's just, we're down to our raw essence. That's kind of what it does. And the thing is, we could be wearing clothing and still be showing up in full rawness of our essence. We can be wearing a winter parka and still be shining the bright light of us. And we know what it's like to be naked and be totally closed as well. And so there's a spectrum of experiences, but those spaces where that type of experience is safe and facilitated and shared, because everyone going there has a similar is on some type of similar frequency where it's safe to do so, it's like, and I'd love to hear your experience about the summer camp of what it's like as well, because I was on a Jesuit retreat a couple weekends ago, or a couple months ago, and I really liked something that they talked about was that this is a mountaintop experience. Like, what is it like to take these mountaintop peak experiences and bring them into the valley of our daily lives? And, you know, we can also experience daily life as being a mountaintop. And so it's not necessarily that one is better than the other, but that process of integrating these, like taking that special moment and embodying it in our daily moments. Was there like a transition that you experienced? I guess, was it compartmentalized, that the way that you showed up in that summer camp and then for the rest of your year?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing I just want to say is just like your whole experience with the bathing ritual. It's like these moments of ceremony and ritual like have so much power.
Absolutely.
And these are practices that people have been doing for forever, and they crack us open, and that is ultimately why I still identify as Jewish, because it's not anything about the teachings. For me, it's about the rituals. It's about returning to these practices that have been done for thousands of years and noticing how that does something to me. And so then what you're saying about the mountaintop to the valley, how do we bring it back? And I think, again, like so much of my life, what I was talking about before of like shifting in all of these different spaces, it really felt like forgetting. It was like, I would have moments of clarity and then I would forget. And it still happens, of course. Like my daily work is to not forget in the moments that are the most challenging, the most triggering. And like, so something that I do is like, I remember when I was working in an office setting, I would like go into the bathroom and just like shake it off and like reconnect to my heart and I would make a game out of walking through the office, passing by people and all their different energies and holding that feeling in my heart and trying so hard to not choose to dilute myself, but rather to invite people in if they want to come. If not, I'm just here, like I'm in my heart radiating. So I would literally like practice this, like walking through the space. And now that I'm working from home, what I do is I like sometimes when I start noticing that I'm getting overwhelmed, like a few weeks have gone by and I'm actually like starting to lose my sense of self a little bit. I make a practice of like lighting a candle at the beginning of the day when I'm finished with my meditation. I'm about to like sit down and work. I light a candle, I set my intention, and then it's there burning all day long. I don't do this every day, but like when I really need it, it's there burning. And so I'll be working, I'm looking at the screen, and then I see the flame and it reminds me to come back. So I think like so much of what we do is, I think like you and I both have this desire to really create those spaces of ceremony, of these spaces where everyone, you know, when everyone is committed, when everyone comes with the intention of living from that place, it becomes so much easier. It's so much easier. You can just be like, oh, okay, so there's no judgment. Like, I love you and I love you. And like, it's easy. But then it's when we come back that like we're going to encounter all sorts of people. And it's like you said, like they are all, every single person we meet has this essence, has this core gift. They have their own medicine to offer. And it's actually up to me to get my judgment out of the way. Because what happens when I see someone who I think isn't going to get me and I decide to close, I'm actually judging them. I'm not giving them the opportunity to receive me. And so I think like where I'm at right now with my work is so much with Unbound Heart Space. It's really about like when I'm holding space for others, my number one job is for me to get out of my own way, to stop seeing myself as a separate being who's being judged by all these people. As soon as I can forget about that, I realize, oh, they're honoring me, I'm honoring them. That's when the real work can start. And that's when magic happens. And that happens in ceremony, in ritual, in yoga, in music, in dance. It happens when you're with close friends, but it also happens out in the world. And it's really like about getting out of our own way more and more. So like right before this, whenever I meditate before teaching a class or like doing something like this, I find that the prayer that comes to my mind is, may I be clear, may I have clarity so that I can serve you. It's not about anything that I'm doing. Because once it's about anything that I'm doing, it can be judged, it can be picked apart. Fine, that's part of the human experience. But that's not really what this is about.
Absolutely. And what beautiful examples. I love the tangible examples too of throughout your life of the candle and this prayer. I'm just really radiating and appreciating and receiving all that you've just shared and just letting it kind of just letting a moment for all that to sink into the cells. Yeah. And that clarity, it kind of goes back to how you introduced yourself right at the beginning, right? Of just showing up empty and letting it flow through. Because at least in my, first couple decades of life, it was so much living not connected to the heart, living in the head and planning. It was like planning, prepared. I remember my dad would have this saying that he would say, if you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Like what an energy, what an energy. And it comes from such a beautiful place. Like when I see that now, it's like how wonderful to desire success and to desire for things that belief that I need a plan in order for things to go smoothly. But really it's like I've gotten to live and discover that flowing with the present moment, things happen with such ease and they flow so smoothly when I just kind of allow myself to go through that. And I think that was also something that last year I was offering and working with a couple one-on-one clients. And this was like my beginning foray. It was the beginning of 2021 when I was tiptoeing into the realms of this work, whatever this work is, this multidimensional expansive work of just me being me. And all of those thoughts of who am I to, or I need to prepare. Like I remember my mind often had these patterns and programs of rehearsing. Have you ever done that of in your mind rehearsing conversations? Yeah.
That was like 90% of my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Always anticipating and rehearsing and playing out these like extensive scenes of what the conversation was going to be like. Because if I practice the conversation, then it'll go well.
Yeah, or after the fact.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, replaying and rehearsing all the conversations.
And these like imaginary dramas, totally.
Yeah, and at least in my mind, it was this desire for it to be good, desire for me to be accepted and belong and goodness and rightness and all of these things, right? And what I got to experience was really practicing at the time. What is it like to just show up without a plan and trust that everything is already within me? Everything that I need to call upon is already within and accessible to me. Because really, it's not about the thing about that conversation is that's a one-sided conversation. Even though there may seem to be multiple characters in it, it's all me. It's like me talking to me. And the beauty of, for example, a moment like this is you're contributing this vastness, and it's a co-creation. That's why it really is a co-creative experience in space. Even everyone who watches or listens to this, they're contributing energy and presence to this environment. And so it's unpredictable in many ways. Like, what is actually going to unfold is down to the present moment. And rather than predicting, I find so much more ease and enjoyment in just delighting in the kind of unfolding surprise of what happens. It's not even that, because I do believe that we can see if we choose to see. It's like the forgetting. I love that you talked about forgetting, because that was a fear that really came up for me last year after it was at the end of 2019 that I suddenly like rocket launched and had all this remembrance. And then what came up was the fear of forgetting again. The fear that like, now that I remember my connection with the oneness, and now that I remember what it feels like to be connected, that I'll forget. And that fear of forgetting who I am.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing after back to the first pregnancy. Like I had this like, whoa, like transported into new reality. And then I was like, shit, like I have to do everything I can to hold on to this.
Yeah.
But I think also out of that fear is where regular sustained practice is born. And like, it doesn't have to be sitting down and meditating daily, but it did become a very, very, very high thing on my priority list to remember to devote to myself, and to remember to surrender and return to that place.
Yeah.
And that is like part of my daily ritual.
Yeah, even in this moment I'm noticing the moon phases behind, which that was something even that you said right before we started filming, that's something that reminds you of who you are when you're on these Zoom calls.
And I didn't mention, I actually like placed some flowers behind my laptop, so I'm like looking at these beautiful yellow daffodils right now at the same time. It's like all these little reminders. Yeah,
and that really is like the daily devotion. And that's even going back to sacred objects. Like there's having little happy Buddha holding up his little happy Buddha belly, and then I have an abalone shell, and I have a hummingbird painting, like all of these different things, which over the past 2 years they've changed. Like they kind of, at least for me, they flow in and out of, like I go through cycles. Even with crystals, it's like certain ones resonate and then I evolve, and then different ones resonate, and da. But they are these reminders. They're these reminders and these reflections of who I am and who we are, and that we are connected and we are one. And I think in some ways that's interesting. What's coming up in this moment is my godmother. She's moving out, and she's moving away to another place in the world, and she brought over all of these photo albums of like me and my brother and our family through the years. And that's kind of that thing about holding on to photos and nostalgic knickknacks. Like in many ways it's remembering who you are. It's surrounding yourself with these memories of your human incarnation and being like, this is who I am. That fear of forgetting, it's very, 'cause it's like, if I forget who I am, then do I even exist? It's like I completely dissolve into non-existence, and the gripping is that like ego survival.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about, is like so much of this, it's making me think of this tension where it's like, as long as we're living in human form, we are vulnerable, and we do need to take some steps to protect ourselves. Like that's simply part of this experience. We can't leave our bodies and just transcend. very often that's kind of emphasized. It's like just ascend, ascend, ascend. I think that's also a big part of my work is like this feminine experience is so much about the body and returning down to earth and finding spirituality here in this messy human experience. But it's like when we were talking before about, it's like we have this tension between how much can we release and surrender, but also create spaces for ourselves that remind us. And so we're not just going with the flow, like flippy floppy, like whatever happens. Like there's some intentionality behind it, some guiding light that we can return to, while also like it becomes this dance. Like I feel like for me it's a constant back and forth where I start to take myself really seriously. I'm like, oh, I have like all these ideas. I like suddenly now I think I got it. I think I understand the way things work. And then something will come my way and like snap me out of it. I'll be pushed down and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not in control here. And it's like back to the humbleness. And then it's like these, like I keep trying to figure out what is the meaning of all of this? Like how can I make my life meaningful? Like, and we have to do that. Otherwise there's no point. And I mean, like we don't have to have this like intellectual struggle. We definitely don't. But part of this human experience is that we're moving towards death. And humans, since they began, have been trying to figure out what the meaning of all of this is. And like for me, I find that meaning in surrendering and in letting go of control, but also working within it as a limited being, as a separate being, and like understanding, okay, we're all these separate beings. We all have these separate challenges. We all have these separate gifts because we've all experienced different things. And together, that's like what we can bring each other to the wholeness. And it's just really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool. And well, I love what you said about the transcending the body, because at least I know that what I've discovered or continuously remember about what an aspect of my purpose of being here, like why have I chosen to be on Earth at this time as the human that is Pei-Ling Lee? And a large chunk of that is simply to shine. It is to not, it is not to shine, because I do shine as a star literally in space, but it's about shining as the star in this space, in the space while being within the body, because we are each these anchor points, literally rooted and connected with Gaia and collaborating with Gaia, collaborating with the earth. And as we allow our essence to be seen and felt and experienced by us first, and then like radiating out, however other people respond, react, or encounter the light of us, like that is the ascension. Like that is the ascension. It's the embodiment of our light. It's not about us leaving our bodies to be light somewhere else. It's remembering that the light is within here, and then just choosing to shine, which even in that, like choosing to shine is a profound act of just embodying the divinity that we each are. And the other thing that comes up about the separateness, it's like, yes, that's been a major shift for me in this calendar year of 2022, of accepting that I am a separate being and accepting that I am Pei-Ling, and not everyone is Pei-Ling. Because last year I very much was in a state of dissolving. I was like, I am one. I am just dissolved into the oneness. You are me. I am you. I am the tree. And that absolutely is still true. And there actually is beauty in us being separate beings. Like that is an aspect. I didn't realize it last year, but I was rejecting being a separate individual in some ways, because I was like, I am, my skin is just a blurred boundary that dissolves into the energy of the air anyway, so I'm just nothing. And the truth is I am someone. And within the individual separate parts that we are, like that is such a cool thing, that within each separate part is everything. Like within the one that we each are is the one that everything is. And that's that when people talk about a holographic reality, it's that you could enter or encounter any aspect of the hologram and experience the whole thing. It's like how the womb is a portal to all of existence and all of creation. It's like even the eyes, like how people talk about the eyes being windows to the soul. Any one aspect, like even our fingertips, like any one aspect of our individual body is this concentrated fractal of the entire beingness of our essence. And just because, I'm remembering that as we were talking about being surrounded by reminders, what I've found is that as I've chosen to continually live from my truth and my essence and my light, because that's really what it is. It's not necessarily, I've found, it's like I've shifted from focusing on a destination, and rather it's like, it's not where I'm going, but where am I coming from? It's like, what am I experiencing life from? Who am I experiencing life as, rather than what is actually happening around me? And as I've experienced life from, consciously choosing to experience life from my multidimensional wholeness and my like light and divinity and all these things, everything suddenly becomes a reminder of who I am. Like even when I encounter things that, may seem to be contrasting, like that just reminds me, oh yeah, I'm not that. I'm this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like one of the things that's been a shift for me too is like starting to see these challenges that come my way as like opportunities to peel back even more and like go back even deeper. Like, where does this take me? Yeah. And for me, hearing you say all of that, I think like the easiest reminder is like the sky or the trees or just the breath, like the breathing in life and like the air. But probably right after that is like, for me, it's the body. It's like, it's sensation and it's this beating heart. And I think that that's why, even though teaching yoga asana feels in a way limiting because people are coming to with so many expectations of what a yoga class should look like and what they want to get out of it, that's why teaching yoga is powerful for me, because I really want to just give people this gift of like returning home in the body. And it's like, if I can just, after a retreat or after an experience, like let you take a little souvenir and it's like something that you do with your hands, or it's like just connecting with the heart. Like this body is with us till the end. It will change. It will start to fall apart, but this is our vessel that we experience life in, and this holds everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's so the being in a body has been a huge aspect of my journey these past couple years, and really my experience of womanhood, as you were talking about being, what is it? Bleh. Ooh, I bit my tongue. What is it? What is it to be a woman, or be in a, not even just be in a body, period. What is it to be in a body and to move about and exist within the world? And that's been a really challenges as opportunities, a very expansive opportunity that I've chosen to evolve through is specifically being in this body that I am in, and being in a body that I've gotten to experience standing out because of the way that my body appears. Like, even growing up, my dad's Chinese Malaysian and my mom is English Irish, and both of them, like, my dad is 5'6" and my mom is 5'3", and I happen to be 5'8", 5'9". And so standing out even in height wise, growing up and going to Malaysia and just feeling the feeling so violated, like, because of where I was coming from at the time, like very much coming from separation and having forgotten my essence and disconnection and all of these things, but feeling totally unsafe in my body and so unsafe being seen, and just feeling and not even remembering, because I didn't remember how energetically and telepathically and psychically sensitive I was, but just feeling the penetrating stares of just people and presence, and just feeling that, and walking down the street in whatever context, even if it were like a safe neighborhood or even the neighborhood I grew up in, like encountering a man walking down and just like I am an expert at closing my energy. I know how to turn it off immediately. I know how to like just send out those signals of stay away from me. Like I'm an expert of saying stay away from me. And that was all coming from this fear of being in my body, this like dissociation of being in my body, because of all of the things that I was carrying that I didn't realize I was carrying. All of this collective intergenerational trauma and like frequencies and programming and that I'm so grateful that I got to experience, and I'm so grateful that I chose to experience those things, because it really offers me this embodied experience of what it's like to be so closed, what it's like to be living from fear and disconnection and all of those things.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was one of the most defining, when I mentioned like not fully feeling held by a community, like that was a very big part of it. I had so much shame around my body, and then it dissolved into, as I grew older, it was exactly what you were talking about around men, where like I didn't know how to turn off my energy, and I was constantly feeling violated as I moved through the world. And this is like, like we experience trauma with the body. So like, it's nice to say, let's just dissolve and like surrender to the moment. But the reality is, most of us have experienced trauma in some way, shape, or form. And I know for a fact that, like, I would say like 99% of women have experienced this struggle that you're talking about. And it shows up in different forms, but we are moving through the world as bodies that are being looked at in all these different ways. And it is so suffocating. It is so heavy, and it's not just the way that we're looked at. It's physical abuse. It's all these different forms of abuse that either we've experienced personally, someone close to us has experienced, or if we don't have that, you can bet that you just go back a couple generations and they for sure have. And this is how we were raised. So it's like, this is why I feel like this time that we live in, I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to release this, and maybe not raise children in the next generation with these same patterns.
Absolutely.
And to just be able to, even just for ourselves, to be able to create spaces that feel safe, so that we really can just let go and express. Because like, it's like I mentioned at the beginning, like, it's still not always safe in this world. It just isn't. Like, for so many people of so many different identities, whether it's like the color of your skin or your gender or your sexual orientation, like abilities, like whatever it is, it's still not safe. But we can hopefully create spaces where it is. And that's why this work is so important. Even if it's just creating that for ourselves, creating a little container where it's okay to just let go of the armor, like let go of the protections and just make noise, just express, just move your body. Like, wow, like actually just getting out of the ways that you hold your body to protect yourself. Like, what happens if you let your stomach hang out? Mm-hmm. Or like, what happens if you sit with your legs open wide? Like, I was taught not to do that.
Oh my gosh, I was 4 years old. I was in daycare and I was wearing a dress and I sat crisscross applesauce, and I distinctly remember they were like, Pei-Ling, could you don't sit like that, because I was a girl and wearing a dress and all of those things. But what is it like to just let the body be the body? And that shift, the biggest, one of the really profound shifts for me the past couple years that really allowed me in 2020 to clear just all of this ancestral trauma was dropping from my mind and into my body. And there was so much fixing. It was like from the mind, there was this lens of judging and fixing the body, kind of like looking down at the body and being like, what's going on here? This needs to be changed. This needs to be improved. Or no, like, what is this? What's happening? And all of this chitter chatter from the mind. And as you mentioned, it's like, the book, the body keeps the score. The body does. It's like somatically and within our cellular memory and within our bones and all of these things, all of that, those experiences of generations energetically is stored in our physical body, in our mental body, emotional body, energy body, And the way that it released or shifted out of me was not through my mind. It was not, there was definitely some like mental reprogramming and belief work that I did, but so much of the actual shifting came from me not analyzing it. It's not like, oh, what do I need to release? And like, now I'm going to like release it. It was actually going, and sobbing and crying and shaking and just when those things arise, just like literally physically moving and expressing and giving myself permission to just there's so much power in sound of literally an exhale. Like, we have these tools and these resources within us, and these just observing nature. That's what like Qigong and all of these beautiful movement practices, they sprouted from observing the way that nature, and how does a toddler react when it's throwing a tantrum? How does a bird or like an animal that has just experienced a shock, they shake? And that intuition of the body remembering that versus what it's like being in the kind of rigid box of societal programmed expectations of how one should or should not behave. And it's like, what if I'm just dancing in the grocery store line? Like, what if I'm just shaking wherever I want to shake because I'm a free being? Yeah, but the exiting, letting the energy and, which I just feel inspired to mention it, a big, I say big, everything is big. Everything is big and profound and tremendous. But it really was a very catalytic experience for me to do pelvic floor therapy. And it was with, I think I did mention this to you. The book was called Wild Feminine. Tammy Kent, I think, is the author. Oh, do you have the book? Right there, look at that, Wild Feminine. And the pelvic floor therapist that I went to studied with her. And it was this beautiful combination of like ancestral work and energy work and physical physical touch as well, of releasing all of this energy, all of this holding within the womb space and just the entire pelvic floor. And yeah,
this is actually like, totally, oh my gosh, this is actually like inspiring me. I'm getting ideas for our little offering for the listeners.
Ooh, amazing. Yeah. Have you, just a little moment of pause. Something that has been kind of popping up through our conversation that I would love to just like reflect back and honor is the level of consciousness and awareness that, at least in my experience, that you choose to move through your daily life, but then also specifically around pregnancy and motherhood, like the bringing consciousness and awareness and compassion to those aspects. Because I relate and I resonate in that 2020 and 2021, it in many ways was the beginning of my motherhood journey. Like, even though I'm years away from choosing to conceive, I've gotten to experience, well, in 2020, when I suddenly went really deep into Ayurveda and I just felt this kind of purging, cleansing, just this real momentum to be a clear vessel, to really care for and love my body in this way. And this has really been a present for me since being young as well, but this real motivation and desire to care for myself in preparation for being pregnant. Like, even as I was doing all that, and maybe it was because, you know, my mom is a midwife, so I've grown up in the context of midwifery and pregnancy and labor, and my Ayurvedic doctor friend, she works with pregnant women as well. So I'm very much surrounded by all of the energy of pregnancy. But I was very much going into it with this intention of preparing my womb for 6 years, 7 years, however many years that I'm going to be pregnant, but preparing, like starting that preparation, starting essentially prenatal care, like a decade before the actual conception, because really prenatal is it's not just a couple months before desiring to conceive. Prenatal is just everything prenatal. It's our entire lifetime and the generations and the lineages and all of those things. And then last year I got to, and this is something that I think I shared with you as well, but just the idea of interdimensional conception and pregnancy, that as my experience of life has become multidimensional and shifted from being like, it's just 3D, or it's just reality is only what I see in front of me, that really there's all of this stuff in the used to be unseen realms, but there's just a whole multidimensionality to existence. That what is it like to be a multidimensional conscious being and experience pregnancy, conception, motherhood? Because it really does. It blows open and it widens the expansion of what is actually happening, like the energetics of pregnancy, the energetics of motherhood and conception, and even the context of like being pregnant and then choosing to end a pregnancy or miscarriage. Like, I was just talking to my mom, I talk to my mom quite often about just pregnancy and the energetics of it, and how all of these are, like you had shared about your experience, they're like these preparatory evolutionary experiences that kind of catalyze you into this phase of transformation. And as you may experience, but this is what at least I know, that a baby is born, from a baby perspective, the baby or babies, they're existing outside of the realm of time. And so they are fully conscious, coming in exactly in the moment that they are meant to. And that is a divine collaboration between the baby, the mother, and everyone involved, and the earth. it's a collaboration between baby and Gaia and mother and all of existence for the moment that a baby is actually born. And everything else, it's like part of the evolution of that experience for the vibrational alignment of that precise moment.
There's like no words for how incredible it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm so excited to experience it.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like you talked about, of just feeling into being pregnant and connecting with the power that is inherent within each of us of being creators. Like,
yes.
That creator being power. And pregnancy and motherhood, or even if you're birthing of any kind, you might not be birthing a human baby, birthing a project, birthing a business, birthing an artwork, birthing an album, like all of these different experiences of pregnancy and birth and creation.
Yeah, I mean, when you talked about the energetics of pregnancy, like, again, it was only 1 week that I was conscious of it. But it really was like, when I was talking about everything moving inward and getting very focused, it was like, for me, it was like a mother bear, like kind of almost like a hibernation, like everything just became, it wasn't about me, but it was about what's happening here in my zone, and nothing else comes close to, like, it just doesn't matter. Like, whatever's going on out there is not and that has stayed with me, where it's like, when you talk about birthing a project or birthing, like, I really feel like I birthed a new version, like my new self.
Absolutely.
Like you can't just decide, oh, that didn't happen. Like, it did, and it leaves an imprint. And I didn't birth a new life in another being, but I did birth a new life here in myself. You know? So it's powerful to really feel into that. And it's like, the energetics of it is like, it's just incredible how we have access to this knowing, and we have, like, we just have access to this experience. Like, I feel, I value, oh my God, I value my mother like so much more. And just looking around and seeing all these other humans in the world, and the fact that they all came into life in this same way. And it's just, there's no greater miracle that I can think of that we experience. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I love that you said the mother bear, because just last night I was watching this polar bear documentary, and it highlights the mother bear and her cubs in the Arctic. And it's kind of like that focusing in, like you said, your priorities just became super clear in that moment.
Yes.
And it's like a simplicity that when you're so connected with what matters to you, what your values are, whatever they are for you in any given moment, when we're connected to what is our drive, what is the light that is fueling us, in many ways, it's, yes, we are open and we remember the infinite possibilities, but then there's a focusing in, there's a simplicity, because when we're so connected and living from that light, it's like, I recognize that not everything is actually, I'm not actually being pointed in a million directions. It's kind of like the going from blurry to suddenly the clarity and the focus of the lens becomes super clear, and you would just have pinpoint vision to knowing exactly what it is that your light is here to be doing. And that can change, But in any given moment, it's like, for example, in this very moment, the only place that I am here to be is right here and right now in this conversation. And, you know, when this ends, then that'll be pointing me in a different direction. But that I've experienced so much, like even at the beginning of this year, and this has been a recurring pattern for me in my life. And I'm curious if this has been something you've experienced of, with so many passions and interests and so basically a lot of things lighting me up, it's like, what do I focus on? What is my like one thing? Even that idea that we need to find the one thing that is our career path in life, right? And I was experiencing this kind of reluctance to focus or choose anything because of this, either this fear that that would be a mistake or I'd want to change, or this fear that by choosing one thing, I'm suddenly separate from all the other things, that I can't possibly, it's like a commitment and I'm stuck. It's like this trapped energy that I'm stuck with that for the rest of my life. And really it's like, no, it's actually, even when we focus on one thing, we're not disconnected from everything else. We're still connected and everything is still open. There's still these infinite possibilities. But the truth is, that thing over there isn't actually aligned with what I desire. It's not actually aligned for me. It just happens to be that the one thing that I'm focusing on now, that is the thing that is for me, and that there's that alignment between this and the ultimate grounding for me, even in this moment, is my focus in any given moment, and it comes back to the body. It's kind of like, where is my body now and where am I present? Because my focus just is in this now present moment, regardless of anything else that may be happening. And yeah, but have you've also experienced a like focus and da-da-da?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this all comes down to the fact that we are cyclical beings. Like, we are not fixed beings. And that applies again to all people, but we live in a world that's chosen to focus on this masculine property of stability and productivity and moving forward and taking action, which is really useful when it's not the only thing. But we think we've been taught to define ourselves in a way where we're not going to have these ups and downs. We're not going to have days where we're feeling really creative and productive, and then followed by days where we don't have any ideas and we don't know what we're supposed to do with ourselves. And like, maybe we just shouldn't be doing anything because it's not what that day is about. We don't have that model. And I think that like so much of it comes down to like the way we've been taught in this like capitalist society to like find some work that will give you happiness and will give you your life's purpose. Like, that's not something that I believe in at all. Like, what really my interests have always changed. Like, when I look back at my life, like, I was again like super fortunate to have these parents who were like feeding all of my interests and would like I look back and it's like from day one, I would have all these different passions. Like when I was very young, it was piano, and then it was ice skating, and then gymnastics. And then like every couple of years I would switch, and that would become a thing that I'm like, oh my God, this is giving me so much life. And then it would switch. And I actually like only recently noticed that pattern because it kind of a little bit went away and then it came back, where like a couple years ago, like I was like, I've always been a very visual person where I look out at the world and I always imagined like, oh, I could draw that, like I could paint that, but I never thought I could be an artist because these like fixed definitions get set so young. And like I had some friends as a kid who were like good at drawing, so I thought that I wasn't going to be able to be good at drawing, and that was just a door that went slammed shut. And then later in life, I just picked up a pencil and started drawing, and I was like, oh, I saw potential, and I was like, oh, I could actually like create something that I like here. and be like quote unquote good at this. I could actually be a good person, like artist. Wow. Which was like such a scary term that I would never have used before. Now I have no problem saying I'm an artist. But like I went really deep into drawing and painting and was like imagining like dedicating my life to that and like having a studio and like making that my life's work. And then as life does, like I sort of like shifted towards focusing more on yoga, which is actually the longest through line. It's like pretty much, like I said, like I could trace yoga back to my childhood, but I've been pretty consistent with my practice since I was a teenager. So like about 12 years now, but then going really deep with it, like really like going deep into the philosophy and into like everything that we talked about, like then that kind of has filled up most of my kind of like time or like waking energy. But I'm also doing music, and I'm also like, I've always just kind of trusted that somehow it would all make sense. And, you know, like, I think it's like, I don't ever want to get to the point where I know everything there is to know about whatever I'm doing. You know, like it's that curiosity. It's that like desire to like try something new and see what happens. And then you get this delight of creating something that you had no idea. Like every creation, you come in with your ideas and then you just go forward, and it usually like knocks you down at some point, and then you have to piece it back together, and then suddenly you've created something in collaboration with all of these outside forces, and it's like, wow, that flowed through me, and I had no idea that was in there. And that's why creativity is like such a big part. This is like everything you were saying, like this is what Unbound Heart Space is about. It's about not putting these limitations around our expression. It's about just trying and seeing what's out there, and we're going to be surprised, and sometimes those things are going to be pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. And I can see it very much parallel my journey of the passion diving deep, change, passion diving deep. And that was kind of and most recently at the beginning of the year, it was like Qigong and yoga. And then I'm a singer-songwriter, but in times it's been like, oh, I'm a writer, I'm a this, I'm a that. Yeah. And the truth is, like, I'm a multidimensional being who includes all of those things. And in that moment, or even in 2020, I was like, I'm a baker. Like when in those times that we dive deep, we are embodying that, as we're expressing that aspect of our essence. And changing doesn't invalidate that. Like just because we change and evolve. And I think that has been one of the greatest gifts that has just been the most relieving for my mind, for me, is just giving myself the permission to evolve, that I'm here to change, to evolve, to transform. And it's okay that in that process, some things go dormant and other things activate, because that's the process of evolution. And yeah, I'm so glad that you highlight that we aren't linear beings. Like, yes, we have that capacity because we each have those energies within us of masculine, feminine, yin and yang, that we, at least it's kind of like, that's why this experience, this podcast is called Spiraling Within, because it's like we turn and then, oh, looks like we're on another level of the spiral, and we're just like spiraling through life in these twists and turns. And sometimes in the spiral, you're looking straight and you don't actually see where you're going, because there's a curve, there's a turn, there's a bend. And that's why I love the anchoring back in the body, because the body just really roots us and supports us in the present moment. Like on the spiral, as we spiral through this unfolding life, it's like everything we need to know, everything we need to experience is already just right here, right now. And I feel like that's a beautiful place to open and just open the space to you, Marina, and what you feel inspired to offer us and guide us, and it's all you.
So to begin, let's take one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly, to the womb space. And for a moment here, let's just drop into the body, noticing how it feels to hold yourself. And you can do this practice either seated or standing, whatever is convenient for you. But try to choose a space where you'll feel safe to open up your heart, to move the body, and to express. So with the hands caressing the body, the heart, and the belly, just start to loosen the grip around your spine, inviting in a light sway. That might be from side to side, or it might not be linear, it might be more circular or random. And begin to invite in a deep, even breath. With each inhale, breathing in the air around you. And with every exhale, sending back some of yourself back into the environment. So with this gentle rock, holding yourself, caressing yourself. With the inhale, we open to receive. And with every exhale, giving back some of those same gifts. Transformed through the heart. Now, whether you're seated or standing, plant your feet firmly on the ground. So we're establishing a connection with the earth. Feeling that solid base, that solid connection, maybe spreading out your toes, setting them back down. And really feel the bottom of your feet. What kind of sensations, vibrations do you feel in the feet? And with an inhale, can you imagine drawing some energy up from the earth into your womb, into your belly? And I'll just say, whether you have a biological womb organ in your body or not, this applies to you. So it's that womb space, that space where we nurture, where we grow, where we connect back to Mother Earth. So on that inhale, feel the energy drawing up through your feet, up your legs, into your womb space. And on the exhale, just hold yourself. Just absorb. Swaying, allowing the body to soften, allow the jaw to soften. The space between the eyebrows smooths out. The tongue releases. The shoulders melt. And then notice if you're holding in your abdomen, allow your belly to go soft. So it's almost as if the pores of the skin are opening up, just opening up to receive. Now let's exhale all the air out. Coming back to center, finding your spine stacking nice and tall. Back in stillness for just a moment. On a deep inhale, we're going to sweep the arms up overhead. Let the fingers be soft. And then on the exhale, we'll pass the fingers over the face, just tapping in between the eyebrows, the third eye. And then release. Inhale, arms reach up, gathering. Then the hands pass down in front of you, taking your fingertips back to the heart. Inhaling, arms lift, gathering that light. Exhale, the palms press down, down to your womb space, connecting the three centers. We'll do that again. Inhaling, arms reach up. Exhaling to third eye. May we have clarity. Arms reach up, inhaling. Exhale, fingertips to the heart. May we release the patterns that bind us. Inhaling, arms reach up. Exhaling, fingertips to womb. May we dissolve into the oneness. Now keep going like that at your own pace. And you can imagine as the arms reach up, gathering sunlight, gathering that powerful, supportive energy that gives us courage. And then your healing hands passing through each of these three centers, drawing that sunlight into the body, into the vessel. When you're ready, resting the hands over the womb, we'll point the fingers down so the pointer fingers will touch, pointing down, and the thumbs will also touch, creating the yoni mudra. It's like a large diamond shape. And just softening the shoulders, softening the jaw once again, connecting into this creative center. For a moment, I want you to just ask yourself, how am I feeling in this moment? What is bubbling up for you after listening to this conversation? Feeling your feet planted on the earth and coming into the body. What is bubbling up? Without judgment, without expectations, without needing to change a single thing, we roll out the welcome mat for whatever we find, whoever we are in this moment. Extending a compassionate, welcoming hand to ourselves. Every inhale, we breathe in nourishment from Gaia, from each other, feeling that support. And on the exhale, releasing tension, sending back gifts. Within your womb space is the connection to all of creation. And you have your own unique medicine, your own gifts to share with the world, whether you know what they are or not. Just feeling into the womb, knowing that that inner guide has so much to offer. With an inhale, feel that power filling you up. And with an exhale, release it. Release the hands. Let's just shake out the arms, shake the wrists and the shoulders. And I want to invite you, we're going to shake for a little while here. So you might even want to stand up if you're seated. I'm going to do this sitting. So we're shaking, shaking, shaking. And taking your mind down into the heart space now. The feeling in your heart. I want to invite you to just ask the question, what is something that I can release? Something that I'm having a hard time letting go of. And you don't need to know the answer. We're going to inhale, take a deep breath into the heart, and then on an exhale, make a big sound. Do that again, inhaling. Make some noise. And then we'll let the arms rest. We'll take the hands to a position of your choosing that connects you to your inner knowing. I'm going to return to one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly. Knowing that your inner guide is always there for you. I'm going to invite you to just start to make some big circles with the rib cage. So we're going to start to open up and move energy all throughout the torso. And then while you do that, I want to invite you to open up your mouth, start to make big faces, releasing the jaw. If you're standing, you can move around your hips. And then returning to that inner knowing. How am I feeling now? And I want you to start to play. Get curious. Making some sounds to express this feeling in this moment. And noticing if this makes you uncomfortable in any way, honoring that, knowing that we are used to holding ourselves back. And then maybe just give it another try. Then we're gonna settle. Coming back to stillness, drawing the corners of your mouth up into a smile if that feels good. Taking a few rounds of breath here, just noticing how the body feels, how the cells feel. Feeling all the sensations in the head. Imagine that the skull could just expand and open up. So it's not trapping in any of the thoughts. The space around the heart gets a little bit porous, almost as if we're opening up a door to let the light shine out from the heart. And the belly, sending your awareness down into the belly. Might even squeeze the pelvic floor a few times to feel the sensation in your root. Let's take the hands to heart center. Draw the palms to third eye. And for one more moment here, I'll invite you to just open up to a sense of higher power, whether that's the God of your own understanding, source, creator, Mother Nature, or if it's not something with a name, it could be your ancestors, or just a sense of love. We open up to that guiding power outside of ourselves, connecting the inner knowing within to the guide beyond. Allowing that feeling to fill you up. Every inhale, it's as if your cells are being nourished. Your cells are expanding and opening. On your next inhale, we'll lift the chest, we'll lift the heart up to the sky. Exhale, bow in reverence. Rising up, we'll rub the palms together. Placing the hands over the breast. Enjoying one last moment here of sending that healing energy through your hands back into your heart. Giving and receiving. Receiving and offering. And then whenever you're ready, holding that feeling in your heart, I'll invite you to blink the eyes open. And the game that we'll play is, as you move out of this experience and into whatever you're doing next, how long can you hold on to this feeling, this radiating, beautiful feeling in your heart as you move through the world? Thank you so much for joining me today. It was an honor to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So beautiful. Yeah, and just honoring the full absorption of this beautiful radiance that we're each now connected to within our hearts and within every cell of our body and beingness. Thank you so much, Marina, for offering this gift of your guidance and your channeling of divine inspiration and your presence throughout this entire conversational space. I'm so grateful, and it's been so fun. And I love, yeah, just the invitation to play too, like to shake and play and make funny sounds and noises and faces, and a great opportunity to embody that and hold on to that feeling in our heart as we continue on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You do that so much for me too. So it was really, really nice.
And thank you to everyone watching and listening and joining us now.